Now joining me is Chris Schmidbauer, and he wears so many hats. He's an SID for Owens Community College. He also is the host of Inside the Huddle on 100.7, and he also is a BCSN analyst, which is a little newer this year, right?
That's right, yeah. This is the first year doing that. 10 years on the radio, and then finally a face for radio, got to be on TV finally.
Yeah. So Chris has been helping us out and calling some of our games this year. So we're talking high school playoff pairings. The regional pairings were just released. Without further ado, let's go to the Division I, Region 2. The teams out that we like, that we want to see advance, Toledo Whitmer, they're ranked number 2, that 2 seed at 9-1. They'll be home against Clayton Northmont. And then you also got Perrysburg on an up year. Really happy for Coach Kriegel and the Yellow Jackets over there. They will be at Dublin Kaufman, so an away game for them. They will take on that 3 seed, and all of these will be for Friday. So playoffs are here. With that said, let's talk some Whitmer football. Now, Riley Keller is supposed to be healthy, so what could possibly get in the Whitmer's way?
Well, this is a Clayton Northmont team that is a rebuilding year, but they play really hard. I think that's the thing that really jumps out to you when you see them. They're not very big. They all guys, a lot of 5'8", 160-pound guys on their team, but the thing that really stands out to me is how hard they play. I think Whitmer at this point, they're going to ride Jared Banks as far as he can take them. If Whitmer's going to advance, it's going to matter about what they do with Jared Banks and how much he can open things up.
Now, if Toledo Whitmer advances, they will take on Perrysburg. Perrysburg had 8 season-ending injuries last season, so Coach Kriegel and these guys, they are ecstatic, and they'll take on Dublin Kaufman, the 3 seed, 8-2. What do they need to do to advance to play a Whitmer team possibly?
Well, when you look at Kaufman, I think the thing that jumps out to you is not a high-scoring team, but they held a lot of good teams to low scores as well. So it's a Kaufman team that wasn't known to score a lot of points. I think Perrysburg's biggest thing is, much like we talked about with Jared Banks, how far can Drew Sims take Perrysburg? I think the job that he's done running that offense this year, they like to throw the ball. Caleb Gherkin's a capable back, but when Perrysburg's at its best, it's when they're throwing the ball to guys like Cam Vidalis and some of those other wide receivers. So I think when you see Perrysburg, it's going to come down to how well do they move the ball against Dublin Kaufman.
If Drew Sims can get passing going, then you have Riley Keller, who's a big passer. I've been told that you can't win a state championship if you don't have a good passer. How true is that?
I mean, I think at some point you're going to have to throw the ball. I think that's just the nature of the game. I think anytime when you look at a team and you look at football, teams are going to slow down the run. That's just the way it goes. So I think when it comes to Riley Keller, when it comes to Drew Sims, they're going to have a time at some point. Even if you want to run the ball, you're going to need a 3rd and 7 to pick up. It's a lot easier throwing it than it is running the ball.
All righty, let's go to Division II. This is my personal favorite bracket because there is so much going on here. Of course, Central Catholic is the 1 seed in this one, 10-0. They will host St. Francis, who is back in the playoff game. They went 6-4 this season. They're the 8 seed. You'll also see St. John's, who is back in the playoffs. They went 7-3. They'll host Westerville South. And then you also got Anthony Wayne, another 10-0. They come in at 2 seed. Not sure how the point system works, but they have Central Catholic over Anthony Wayne, who had a handful of shutouts, almost shut out the entire Northern Lakes League. So Anthony Wayne, 10-0. They will host Delaware, Olentangy, Berlin. So of course we've got to start out with Central Catholic. What Coach Dempsey has continued to do is just they've gone to playoffs. Last year was really disappointing though, and that's where the no passing comment came in. They had Jordan, couldn't get it done. How could they possibly get it done this year, though?
Well, the nice thing is Bishop Vargas is a better thrower than Troy Durden was a year ago, so that obviously helps. But I think when you look at St. Francis right now, I think watching them last week, calling that game of Whitmer-St. Francis on the radio, the thing that jumped out to me was how well Whitmer was able to run the ball against them. But I think, again, you look at that athleticism that Central has, they just have so much speed everywhere. I think it's going to be Central, and I think it might be big, unfortunately. Again, great job by Dan Shipka to get them into the playoffs for the first time since 13, but Central's really good, and that's for a reason, and that's because of Greg Dempsey and how much speed they have.
Yes, the Irish don't rebuild, they reload.
That's correct.
Yes, everyone knows it. Now let's move ahead to St. John's, who's back in the playoffs as well. A great season, 7-3. They're also home, and they're hosting Westerville South. How can Brady get these guys to the regional semifinals?
Well, I think it's safe to say that no team has seen a passing attack like what St. John's has. I don't think you see many teams that spread them out with 5 or 4 wide consistently and just run like a fun and gun style offense like the Titans do. And while St. John's defense has been maligned at times, I think right now St. John's is playing their best football of the season. I think they showed it over their last few games. I think they'll have an easier time against Westerville South, I think, than maybe people thought a year ago.
The 2 seed in Division II, Region 7, Anthony Wayne, those Generals, oh my. You think their offense is going to be stellar every year, which it is, but then their defense almost shuts out their entire conference. So they'll be home. They'll be taking on Delaware, Olentangy, Berlin. How does Mason Alberts and this team get through to the next round?
Well, I think when you look at Anthony Wayne right now, as you said, that defense, how good they've been the last, well, gosh, the entire season, really, if you're going to be honest. I think the thing that you look at with Berlin is they haven't beaten a winning team except one this year. So when you look at that, I think you think Anthony Wayne probably will be able to kind of control the line of scrimmage like they've done against so many teams, especially defensively. Again, setting up what could be a potential Central Anthony Wayne regional final, which everybody around here would go nuts for.
What is better than Anthony Wayne taking on Central to get into the quarterfinals for the state playoff?
To have two undefeated teams, two great defenses, two great offensive teams that have offensive playmakers all over the place. Brian Kale on the defensive coordinator, Anthony Wayne, trying to out-game plan the offensive Central Catholic. I mean, what a great opportunity that would be for Northwest Ohio football to really showcase on a big stage like that.
There's a good chance that matchup could happen.
Absolutely.
With that said, I got to get your score prediction. Who do you think will come out on top in that one?
In that one?
Yep.
I would think it would be a lower scoring game just because I think Brian Kale does such a great job scheming defensively. But I just look at overall, that game would just be so nuts because, again, I think both teams would be really trying to kind of out-strategize the other. And, again, I think you throw all the records at that point out the window. I think it comes down to, again, 48 minutes of football that I think would be fantastic. And I'd really have a hard-pressed time to pick either one of them because they're so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I really would. It's about as even of a matchup, I think, as you could pick in that Division II right now.
All right, so you're copping out. You won't make a decision.
I hate to do that, but I can't really. It's really that hard to pick. It's that close.
It's okay. All right, this is Chris Schmidbauer. Thank you so much for coming in to
Appreciate
talk
it.